What is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare Minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership podcast for all of you today. And today I got my man, Sean O'Rourke, with me, and he's going to spit some serious fire. Sean, will you say what's up to everyone real quickly?
What's going on, fellas, ladies? I appreciate you being on here, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're going to bring it today and share some incredible value to our audience today. But before we dive into that, I want you to click on the notifications button, subscribe. That way you're notified every time we drop another interview, as well as our other fresh content every single week. Well, Sean, I've been looking forward to this, man, to having you on. And what I always like to do when we start off with any guest is to give us what I call a highlight reel, if you will, of your life, maybe a little bit of the past, where you came from, what did you do, a little bit of that transition time up to what you are doing today.
Sure. Yeah. So, I started out young. I bounced around everywhere. My parents were split up. So, I lived with my mom for a while, lived with my dad for a while, and I got to experience the United States from Florida all the way to Ohio and anywhere in between, bouncing around schools.
Sure.
And what that did was that actually helped me adapt to the situations that I was put in. Started out, went to school here locally in Tupelo or close to Tupelo for college or associate's degree in college there. And I was actually a high school dropout and decided that I wanted to get back and get my GED. So I went and got my GED, went to college and got into maintenance and manufacturing. Okay. And so I moved into manufacturing, working on equipment and getting my hands dirty every day and coming in with skint knuckles and bad attitudes. But that's how the life was,
Sure.
As I continued to grow, I was always an entrepreneur inside. And my dad was a regional sales manager for a company. And so I got to meet some really critical, influential people in my life, even if it was only momentarily,
Sure.
where, they would tell me, because I'd ask them, these are wealthy guys that own their own businesses and so on and so forth. And I would just ask them questions and they would tell me, Sean, if you ever want to be successful, you have to work for yourself.
Right.
And so that always stuck in the back of my mind. Well, so fast forward, I'm working in manufacturing, I'm working for somebody else, but I'm always side hustling, doing something, whether that's buying a four-wheeler and fixing it up and pedaling it off or whatever. I'm always doing something on the side. And I moved up into manufacturing to production manager and plant manager. And I did that relatively quickly for my age group. And but I hated it. I hated manufacturing. I hated my boss. And as much as I hate to say that, I mean, I just hated that
Sure.
whole process,
Sure.
and I wanted to find something different. And I stepped off into real estate. And when I realized that was where my knack was, I just kind of accelerated from there. I was working a 9-to-5 with my manufacturing and then got into, doing this on the side on my lunch breaks. And when I left work, I was going and looking at properties and it just accelerated over the past 3 years to where I am now.
Sure. And do you mind sharing just some numbers you feel comfortable with, like how many properties, value of real estate? Do you mind sharing that?
So you talking about currently?
Yeah. Currently.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll kind of break that down a little bit too. So that first year when I was working just a 9-to-5 job, I actually did 36 real estate transactions,
Wow.
That was called wholesales. Because I didn't have any money. I still lived paycheck to paycheck, just like just about everybody in America. As we live life, we set our bills to what our income is,
Right,
and so
right.
I had to put some money. I had to put $1,000 on a credit card. Didn't even tell my wife about it. She kicks my butt now because of that. But I put $1,000 on a credit card to get some data, and ended up doing 36 deals that year, $300,000 worth of gross profit on my first year in real estate. And I realized then, I was like, holy moly, this is something that I can really do. So now, 3 years later, a little over 3 years later, I have over $10 million in assets. And I don't even know how many doors, 8, 800 doors. I'll have to look back now.
Wow, man, that's incredible. And I was thinking as you were talking, and I'm pretty for sure you've probably read the book, Robert Kiyosaki's famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And he talks about the reason the poor stay poor is because they work for money, but the rich get richer, or they get rich because they make their money work for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so that sounds like you have really tapped into that formula. But I want to go back to something, because I love what you said. Even though you hated your job, even though hated your boss, so to speak, and I think we've all been there, you had to stay there in order to fund the ultimate vision.
Yeah.
Right. When did you decide it was time to make that transition? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are just going to quit their job today and go try to make it happen. And I think sometimes that can be a really silly thing to do, or stupid thing to do, because you still have to make money in order to fund the ultimate vision. Can you speak into that real quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and to be honest, if I'm completely candid with everybody, I was a scared little cat when it come to really taking that step off into where I am now. Looking back, it was the best decision ever. But at that same time, I still had to pay my bills. And even though I had made 300 grand that first year, that money, I took that. I didn't take that money and put it in my pocket. I put it right back into the business. I put it right back into buying properties. So in all honesty, I didn't have liquidity of $300,000 in cash. I was putting it into other things because I was trying to set myself up for the path that I knew I wanted to go, not be so materialistic right then at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so really what changed or shifted where I was to where I am now is I had two guys that were very intelligent businessmen that had actually sold a business. They approached me because I had sold them a multifamily, some apartment complexes. At that point, I still didn't have the money to buy apartment complexes, but I was marketing to them and getting them under contract and wholesaling them. And I'd sold them apartment complexes and then coached them on a flip and so on and so forth. And they realized that I knew what I was talking about when it comes to real estate. They come to me one day and they said, Sean, the potential that you have is huge and we want to partner with you.
Sure.
And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm good. I'm making good money. I'm working this on the side. I still work my job. I don't know. And they really just kind of enforced kind of backed me as far as knowing that having enough confidence in me that I didn't have in myself. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
So once they shown me that type of confidence in me outside of my own mindset, it made me realize, you know what, I can do this.
Sure. No, I totally agree. Sometimes you have to have people in your circle that believe in you fully before sometimes even you believe in yourself. So I totally believe that. And so one thing you bring up real quickly, and then we'll get back to real estate here in just a second, is mindset. I'm a big mindset guy. Like, I ultimately feel that's what the way I put it is my 10, right? I was put here to encourage, motivate, inspire people to go after their dreams. How important is mindset in regards to the industry that you're in? What role does it play in regards to having the confidence to go get these properties or invest in this real estate?
Yeah. And you kind of bring something up when you talk about my industry, but in all honesty, mindset is the key to just about any aspect in life. Yeah. So if you decide, and kind of let's go back just a little bit back to the story because of where I was at, because once I had in between my life when I had decided that I was going to drop out of high school, my father had passed away and I had no stability. I'd lived with him. He passed away, didn't have anybody there. I lived with a friend of mine to try to continue to go to high school, worked at Taco Bell to pay bills. And I couldn't do it anymore. I broke down 17 years old trying to do it, and I just couldn't. And so I fell off the bandwagon, dropped out of high school, started getting, heavy into alcohol and other things and soothing myself. And what happened is I had to back up a little bit and look outside of who I really was and what I wanted to be. And when that happened, when I recognized who I was then and realized that I was not going to be where I wanted to be by doing what I was doing, that changed. And once I changed that mindset of poor, pitiful me to get up off your butt and get the work done, my life changed. Okay.
Yeah.
And so mindset has everything to do with who you are and how you react to things. So if I go into a transaction where a homeowner is interested in selling a property, and I'm like, oh man, you know, I had a hard life and I really need a good deal because, you know, this, that, and the other.
Sure.
And I don't exude confidence that they know that, you know, hey, this guy's going to be able to fulfill what he's saying he's going to do. That deal is probably going to go off. But if you go in there and you say, you know what, I got it, and I can help you in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I want to help you. And by helping you, you're going to help me. That transaction works a whole lot better in real estate.
Sure. And I like to say it this way, talking about, you know, woe, pitiful me. And we know it. And I'm sure you've studied it as well, is a victim mindset.
Yeah.
Right. I like to say it this way for those in many circles that I've been in, is a lot of times our blaming is ultimately blocking our breakthrough.
Yes.
Right. And then the breakthrough leads us to the blessings that I believe God has for us. Right. Yes. I believe God wants to bless us, but he's like telling us, hey, you know, I don't think God says dummy, but hey, dummy, you know, you're blaming, you're staying in that woe is me mindset. And I've called you to more than that. So, and I want to stop here too and look in the camera just for a second. Listen, we've all been through struggles and failures and mistakes and mishaps in our past, but your past doesn't have to be predictive of your future. That's really what Sean is saying here. You know, maybe you made some poor choices early on. Maybe you fell off the bandwagon. Maybe you got off on that left or right turn. But today is better than any day to say, you know what? I'm going to snap out of it. I know I've been made on purpose to live on purpose, and I'm going to start today. So, Sean, thank you, you know, for sharing that. Let me ask you this. You said you found your knack in real estate. Was it something that you knew you were passionate about before you dove into it, or was it something that just cultivated and grew in your life as you began to dive into it?
Yeah. So throughout life, I've always loved willing and dealing. So that was that's what I did on the side. You know, I piddled and willed and dealed and communicated and negotiated. And I didn't realize that I loved that. But after moving into real estate, I realized that I love that. Because that's the fun in what real estate is I get to, you know, negotiate and work and figure out problems and work through issues that people have to be able to solve and resolve issues, you know, and then, you know, kind of go back and forth on, well, you know, this, that, and the other, and just the art of the deal. I don't know. There's actually a book called The Art of the Deal, but you know, that whole process, that's just the little present that I get to do every time. And that's what's fun for me. And I found that that's my love. And because that's my love, that was my knack in real estate. You know?
So what advice would you give to someone, and whether it's real estate or maybe they're looking, because on this channel, it's a leadership podcast channel, but the insurance industry I'm in, a lot of insurance people watch it, but you know, we have people in different spaces, entrepreneur wise, that watch this as well. What advice would you give to someone? Because there's so much advice out there in regards to, do I chase my passion? Do I not chase my passion? You know, once you're doing your passion, you'll it won't be a job to you. It's just, you know, it's going to be something that you're going to love to do for the rest of your life. Can you take just a second or just a few minutes here and really speak into that? What advice would you give to someone who goes, I feel like this may be my passion, but I don't know? What advice would you give them to take maybe that first step?
Yeah. You know, that's kind of a difficult question to answer, because, you know, how do you, a lot of times people are going to question, is this something I'm going to enjoy? Is it something,
Sure.
But the one thing that I would say, and this really has been, there's been a couple of things that have been my real success to what I've done. Number one is I jump off into something feet first before I really know all of the aspects of it. I don't need to know how I have to completely set up a contract to be absolutely perfect before I go get a deal.
Sure.
I go get the deal and then I figure it out. It's fun, right? So that's the first thing I would tell somebody is just do something. You don't just do it. You don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to know all the research about it. Just go do something, because that is more productive. The person that'll just go do something is going to get 10 times the amount of things done versus the guy that's going to sit there and study for 3 months to try to figure out how to do something and then go do it. Does that make sense? And then
absolutely.
And then once you do that, once you decide and you say, oh, you know what? That's kind of cool. I like it. After that, then it becomes consistency. So you did something and it worked. Do that again and do that again and do that again. And then add something else and try it. And if that works, do both of them consistently every day. That's it. If the person that will go do something and stay consistent at it are going to win every time.
Yeah. No, I love that. I preach the same thing. I say a little bit differently, man, but you're spitting some fire here, bro. I say it, take massive action no matter how imperfect it may be.
Yeah.
Right. One of my friends says it this way, that details delay.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people want to try to figure everything out, but most leaders like you and in whatever arenas that I've interviewed and I've been around, they're all quick to make decisions and not miss the opportunity. Because you know this, opportunity will pass you by very quickly, especially in this day and time that we live in. Yeah.
So I've got a statement, and I want to write this thing down or do something with it. But my keynote in my mind is success is captured opportunity. Success is captured opportunity.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I live by. And the other one is, if you care about people and not about profit, you'll make money.
Yeah. No, man, now you're speaking my language, because I teach a lot of people all the time too, man. Quit chasing the income, chase the impact.
Yeah.
And for me, being a faith-based person, it's because we were wired that way, that our most fulfilled will be when we're living on purpose in such a way, first, that brings God glory, but also he's wired us in such a way that to make a difference in the lives of other people, right? That our lives will never make sense until we do that. So let me ask you this. What have you seen in your experience has been the number one hurdle for people to maybe take that leap of faith? Is it the details? Is it the having to know? Is it fear? Can you speak into that real quickly?
Yeah. I guess that really varies on from person to person, because we all have some type of angst that holds us back. I think the biggest thing is I think we're programmed this way. I think as we go, through school and everything else, what we're taught is systematically go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job, pay your bills.
Right.
And so stay into that kind of systematic, this is how you live, this is what you do, follow everybody else, stay in the line. And so I think people get programmed that way, instead of saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to kind of step out just a little bit and I'm going to try this. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is we've all been programmed to just stay in a single file line and do what the good American does, instead of just saying, there's something kind of cool. I'm going to go look at it. Let me try this out. And then stepping off into it and going full force. So that, I would say, kind of what I was talking about earlier is just basically just going and doing something. I think that's the biggest hindrance, because we're coached to stay in a line.
Yeah, I was thinking of, you were saying that, I've mentioned this before in other interviews, is I was born in California, spent most of my childhood in Oklahoma, and there used to be this place called Whitewater. And I think there's a couple of hotels on the coast here in Mississippi that have this, but they have this thing called the Lazy River, where you get in with your inner tube and you just kind of lounge in the inner tube and you just go with the flow. I think so many people are in the lazy river of life. They just get into that lazy river with everyone else. They got their drink there, their shades on, and they just kind of coast through life, and they just do what everyone else does. And as you well know, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it takes something to really get out of that lazy river of life and go the opposite direction and not do the norm. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Let me ask you this. What is the number one hurdle you see in real estate from people really investing into real estate?
Yeah, that number one hurdle is money. So people think you have to have money to invest in real estate. That is 100% myth. If you've seen my business, I use other people's money, and all of my real estate that I acquire, I have almost $0 in it of my personal money. I take my own money and put it in my pocket. Okay. I use other people's money to purchase real estate and then allow tenants to pay for my asset. So people really think that, oh, I've got to build up this nest egg. I need 50,000. I need 100,000 to be able to do this real estate. No, that's completely myth. That's a complete myth that we've all been taught for years and years, because as our parents were taught, and this is how our parents were, you need to have money in the savings account. You need to have, you need to build this nest egg. You need to, and all of that worked back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when you could get high interest rates on your savings account. Well, that doesn't work anymore. Inflation is through the roof. The dollar value stinks. It's plummeting continually. So the only thing that's actually going up in value right now is assets.
Right.
So, so anyway, all that being said, it's a misconception that you have to have money. You do not have to have money to do real estate. I didn't have money to do real estate when I started, and I made $300,000 that first year.
Wow. That's crazy. And I have to admit, when I first started kind of really researching some of this, I didn't know that either, which you said. I always thought you had to have all this money. Real quickly, as much as you can, because I know you teach this, and we'll talk about this towards the end, but what do you mean by using other people's money? Is that banks' money? Is that credit cards? Is that silent investors? Can you speak to that just for a second?
Yeah, it's all of the above, really, to be honest with you. So you can, if you know someone that, let's say you have a relative or a friend and they've done pretty decent in life, and let's say they have, I don't know, 50 grand or something sitting around, and you want to buy a piece of property, you can go to them and say, hey, look, I'm going to pay you X amount of interest per month for a duration until I can buy this house, fix it up, put a tenant in it, and then go to the bank and refinance in 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pay you, 12% on your money for 4 months of usage of your dollars. And, they can't get that type of return through the stock market in 4 months. So they'll, people will jump on that. You pay them back out once you refinance the house, and now you have a house free and clear. Another way would be actually not even doing a real estate transaction. Even though you're managing or you're working with a house or a property, you get that property locked up under a contract. And then guess what you have? You have equitable rights to that property because you now have a contract on it. You can take that contract and you can go sell that contract to somebody else that does have the cash, and you make the spread. So what you're doing is you're making $5, $10, $15, $30,000 on the sale of a piece of paper because you put a transaction together. That's it. But you're still working with real estate. You have no money in that, right? Except for maybe some printed paper.
Yeah. Wow. Listen, man. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say the other thing would be absolutely leverage the banks. Don't over leverage yourself, but you leverage the bank. So what you're doing when you take private money and you're going and buying a property, then you're going to the bank because you've bought it at a discount. The whole plan is to buy it at a discount, right? So let's say you buy a house for 50 grand, you put a tenant in it that's renting it for now $900 a month. The house is valued at 110. You go to the bank and you say, hey, I need 65,000. You pay your private investor back 50 grand plus their interest that they're making. And then guess what you get to do with the rest of the money? You get to then take 10, 15 grand, put it in your pocket tax-free, because that is a tax-free event because it's actually debt that your tenant's paying off. So you're actually making money off of that as well. Anyway, it's a whole long thing.
Yeah. Well, listen, that was worth the price of admission there, guys. He is bringing some gold right now. And this is things that he's teaching. But I really want to stop here too, Sean, because we do have a lot of people out there that are in the insurance space that watch this, but I always like to bring diversity and people in other spaces to talk about what they do, because one of those tips about a silent investor, if you will, if I could use that term, even if you're looking to start an agency today, maybe you have a business plan mapped out, you could take a silent investor, bypass the bank, go to someone who has the money, as Sean is saying, right, and pay them back an X amount of percentage, whatever that negotiation is, and you can use that and leverage that other money to get your agency off the ground or whatever business that you are looking for today. So even that tip works across other arenas.
Absolutely. And sometimes you have to coach them, right? So there's a little bit of in-depth kind of understanding first on what you do. But somebody, like, for instance, a lot of people have a lot more money than you would think if they in their 401ks, because all they have to do is they can transfer that money from a 401k to a self-directed IRA, which means they can then take and lend that money, and they're not getting hit, with penalties because they just take that. So anyway, if you coach somebody, a lot of people that have a whole lot more money than you would realize. They just have to understand the opportunities that they can do too. Again, that's looking outside a little bit, and getting outside the line.
Yeah, it's just thinking outside the box, or what I call coloring outside the line.
Yeah.
So I think that piece, one of those nuggets there, I think can be in any industry that you're in, or any arena. I know you're a man of faith. I'm a man of faith. I want to talk about this real quickly, because I never adopt an owner mentality. According to Scripture, God says that we're really stewards and managers. Okay, that everything that He has blessed us with. Let me ask you this: how central or how important of a role does faith play in your business?
Yeah. So that's actually why I started the whole thing with when I decided to really step out into real estate. My wife she's a children's minister, and I was kind of in that role, so to speak, of whatever she's doing, I need to be doing as well. And she had her ministry, but I didn't have any. So what faith has done for me is it's given me the opportunity, because now I talk to so many different people, is I have the opportunity to witness to people in places that you wouldn't, I was able to pray with a family because their grandson was in the hospital in a cobweb-ridden house in downtown Tupelo that's been vacant for 3 years, and so those opportunities get to come up. But then also, I've had opportunities to bless, because as we grow, God, just like you said, God, we're the stewards of the money. I've had the opportunity to give a house away. I mean, I would have never have been able to do that, and that was being able to bless somebody else that's had a hardship. So I don't think as you go, one of the issues is as you grow in your business and profitability and everything else, you have to be really careful, because the devil can get in there. And so you have to stay consistent in mindset to know that, look, this was where I'm going, this is where I'm headed, and stay consistent in that faith. Otherwise, you'll get off and see all these things that, materialistic things or whatever else that can drastically affect you. And it does at times when I can admit myself, there's times where I'm like, I get a little selfish and I want a little bit. You have to kind of get back in line,
Sure. No, I've heard it said this way, that money's a magnifier, right? And if you're not shielding yourself against that and putting those disciplines and rituals and cultivating those healthy habits, or John Maxwell calls them uphill habits, you really have to put those in place to guard that as you grow. But there's one important thing that I think a lot of Christian people need to hear, is it's not wrong to ask God to bless you, right? I tell people this, Sean, as a former pastor and church planner, I fell into that myth a little bit, that I felt like I couldn't have money and be the title that I was. And I don't think necessarily anybody preached that to me, but it's kind of this underlining thought process, right? I don't know if it's subliminally in the church, but it's in every denomination where, it's a very prevalent attitude. And so I love what you said, is that you really can't make an impact to the level that I believe God has created you to make an impact unless you have the resources to do it. Right. Yeah. And so one of my favorite prayers is, God, bless me more so I can be a bigger blessing to other people, so I can bless more people. So I'm glad you spoke into that. Let me ask you this. what is one, maybe, and there may be several, but if you could single out one leadership principle or trait that you've really learned, cultivated in your own life, you've leaned into heavily, and that you lead from, is there one that just rises at the top that you can think of?
Yeah, it'd be, systems and consistency. So
Okay.
that's it. You have to put a process. Once you start something and it begins to grow legs, okay, if you don't put systems in place to be able to understand what each leg of that company can do, it's not a business, it's still a job. Okay. So once you put systems in place where that business then can operate with you outside it, and then you look at a higher level and see, okay, how do I change this to drastically affect the business? It's not a business, it's still a 9 to 5. So as you go and as you grow and your business grows legs, you need to put systems in place and then consistently check it.
Why do you think so many leaders or entrepreneurs struggle with implementing systems? Is it a control thing? Is it just an ignorance thing? Is it they just don't know how? What do you think it is that keeps them from going to that next level to as you said, to kind of put them at a higher level and view it from that place?
Yeah, I think, it's a variety of all of the things. I'll be honest. So I hate it. I hate that type of thing. I love to sell. I hate the detail. Okay.
Yeah.
But other people may not have the knowledge to be able to do it. Or, whatever. And so this is something as an entrepreneur, and I think a lot of people have it, they just don't recognize it, is you just need, if this is something you don't like to do, it's more valuable for you to pay somebody a little bit of money to come in and set that system up for you.
Yeah.
Instead of you doing it. And then all you have to do then is control it. Make sure that after it's set up, have somebody else do the work that you don't want to do and pay them for their abilities. And then, but you still get the same result.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice. I agree. I'm not a details guy either. I hate all the details, and I surround myself with people that can do all of that. That's their 10. So I totally agree, because you'll never go to the next level. And listen, if you're a pastor or church planner watching this today, your church is probably not growing because you haven't installed the right systems in place, right? You haven't brought the right people in place to do what you do. And what I have seen in the faith-based space a lot in church planning, Sean, is that a lot of pastors just don't want to give up control. It's their baby, if you will, and they don't realize that they're really just one delegation away from going to the next level.
Yeah, even if somebody can only do 80% as well as you, they're going to do that 80% a whole lot more than you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And you're going to win.
Man, listen, you just took us to church, Sean. I'm ready to pass the offering plate around, man. I'm looking for the choir, brother. Listen, that once again is spitting some serious fire. Maybe you're not having the breakthrough that you need in your business because you're refusing to let something go and delegate it and hire someone else to do it. And so that, man, awesome advice. Let me ask you this. I ask everyone that comes on the podcast this: if there was one word you could use to describe Sean, what would that one word be?
Oh my goodness. Does it have to be one word?
You can use multiple words if you want.
Yeah. So again, I think it's what I'd said before, which is care about people, not about profit.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let me ask it this way. How has that contributed to you being successful, caring about people more than about profit?
Yeah. So all of us as humans all have issues, right? And a lot of times we need other people to come in to help fix our own issues because we can't fix them ourselves. And so what I have the opportunity to do is come in and see a problem and then fix that problem for other people. And by doing that, I'm able to make a profit. But I'm fixing that problem in turn because I'm caring about their problem. That's the deal. You go into, let's kind of, if you got a second, let's go into just one little brief. Somebody's going through foreclosure. Okay. And they're about to be train wrecked on their credit and, their life and everything else. And I sit down at the kitchen table with them and they tell me, their story. And I honestly and earnestly listen to them. And I say, and then I say, okay, well, listen, here's a solution to fix that problem. What we can do is we'll take over the note. You rent this house for a year. You guys pay us a lower rate, whatever the case may be. And what that does, because I honestly cared about them and then figured out a solution to fix their problem, they understand that Sean's here to help me. He's not here to just swindle me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, I totally agree. People definitely need to know that you care, right? They want to know that you really, really care about them. And I have found that the most successful people that are creating significance in this world, right? That they chase impact over income. So thank you for sharing that story as well. As we get ready to wrap up, I saw your sign back there. It said, "Stay hungry, stay humble." Listen, speak into that. Because a lot of people that I find that are very entrepreneurial are high D personalities like myself, right? And it's easy to get into the hungry, prideful mode. But for you, what have you found that's helped you balance the hungry, but also at the same time being humble?
Yeah. The biggest thing is I don't want to forget where I was at. I don't want to forget my roots. I was talking to a guy last night, and we were talking about, what if you make it or like, are there any specific cars that you would ever want to buy, and I said, you know what, it would be cool to own a Ferrari, but I'd still drive it up my gravel driveway because in all honesty, I'm a redneck at heart.
Sure.
I'm just a simple guy that dropped out of high school that still lives out in the country and goes hunting. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to be that person that, that's fake, because that's not who I am.
Sure.
And so that's what helps me.
No, I appreciate you sharing that as well. And so as we get ready to wrap up, somebody's watching this, whether they're insurance agent, real estate, whatever they're in.
Yeah.
What is 3 just real simple, practical tips? I know one, you said just to take action, right? Just make it happen. But if there was 2 more that you could add to that, just simple, practical tips that maybe would push them towards the real estate. Maybe they're thinking about it or have looked at houses, maybe watched some YouTube videos. What are 2 additional tips that you would give to maybe help somebody begin that journey?
Yeah. So I would say number 1 would be take action. Number 2 would be talk to anybody and everybody. What we call this is the 3-foot rule, to say, hey, I'm looking at getting into real estate. Would you guys know of a property that I could potentially buy?
Gotcha.
So use a 3-foot rule, and that can be in any business, right? It doesn't have to be real estate. Hey, I'm wanting to I do insurance, whatever. Use that 3-foot rule. I said that's the second thing. The third thing would be, oh gosh, I don't know. Stay consistent with it again, so take action, use a 3-foot rule, and stay consistent. I think those are the biggest things that you can do to be successful in any business.
Sure. And let me ask you this, just because I know a little bit about you here, because we live in the same town. People can hire you as a coach, a mentor. Do you have a course that they could get into if they wanted to learn more?
Yeah. So I'm actually building it out. I'm hoping to have it available by the end of January. And that's going to be a pretty cool little deal. And there's different options that you can do, as far as getting on that course, but it hopefully will be out, come January. We also have a Facebook page that you can do, but the name of the course is 90 Days to Escape Your 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. So, and that's not a guarantee. What that is I'm going to give you all the information within 90 days, and you should be able to quit your job by following that and be successful in real estate. So I'll have a course there. We also have a mentorship that we do as well, and a Facebook page. So
sure. And real quickly, this is a spontaneous question. I was just thinking in my mind as we wrap up. What you hear all these differing views on traditional retirement and real estate. Do you have any views on that, or can you speak into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually took when I quit my 9 to 5, I actually pulled all of my retirement money out.
Wow. Okay.
And I put it into real estate. Now, was that the smartest thing to do? Probably not, because the market has grown exponentially, as far as the 401ks this past year. It's made a ton of money. But what I can say is that I was able to buy property because of that, and that asset's going to continue to grow. And not only that, my net worth grows. So as debt pay down happens, and as the tenants pay for the properties, my net worth goes up. People get confused about what a millionaire is. Donald Trump doesn't, or whoever, I don't care. Millionaires don't have, just for the most part, don't have just $1 million in their bank account, and that's why they're a millionaire. It's because of the assets in their personal financial statement and how much equity they have that makes them a millionaire.
Right. So where can people find you online? What's the best way to find you, connect with you?
Yeah. So you can look me up on Facebook, Sean O'Rourke. You can also look up that page, 90 Days to Escape Your 9 to 5. I'm throwing bombs in there every day, trying to help people out there for free. And then they can also look me up on Instagram, bearded_investor.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on today, man. You brought some serious fire today, dropped some gold nuggets. Listen, we do this because I believe that God has given all of you a purpose, right? And I pray that something that was said today would put fresh wind in your sails in such a way that you won't quit on yourself, that you will bet on yourself like you've never bet on yourself before, because I believe all of you are called to be a leader in some space and some sphere. So once again, I want to remind you, please comment, like, subscribe, share this with someone who you think needs to hear this today. And as always, I just want to say it this way. God bless you guys. Make it an awesome day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.